Well, let me ask you a question to start off with. Really, really simple. We're going to see who's paying attention. How many of you have family? Go ahead and raise your hand. All right, more than the first service. Good. All right, awesome. You guys are paying attention. Good. I want to play a little game today. I want everybody to put both hands up. You don't have to do real high, just kind of both hands like this, okay, whether you're a kid or whatever. We're going to play a game that I'm simply entitling, Yeah, I've thought that. So here's what's going to happen. I'm going to read just a few statements, and I want to show you how important family is, and you may not even realize it. So if I read a statement that you've either thought or said, I want you to go ahead and put a hand down, okay? It's real simple. You ready? Here we go. First one. If you have ever thought or said, go ahead and put your hand down. If you've ever thought or said, my parents would never let me get away with that. And that's right, yeah, right? I think I've said it. I think I shouldn't have let my kids get away. Okay, anyway. All right, other hand, here we go. Put your hand down if you've ever thought or said, I am the best child my parents have ever had. Some of you single, only children, I don't know, right? All right, let's go. We got a few hands up in the air still. Okay, some of you are lying. That's cool. Put your hand down if you have ever thought or said, oh my word, I sound exactly like my father or mother. Okay, yeah, Sometimes both at the same time, I know, right? How many of you, okay, some of you still got your hands up. Put your hand down if you've ever thought to yourself, I'm not going to be like my parents. Okay, and the last one, if you've ever had this conversation, this is a good one. Something was happening in your life and you've thought or said, I need to call and ask my dad about this or my mom about this. So you see how important family is. Most of us, just about all of us, have both hands down. We just see. I want you to see that it's important, and family is so big in your life. When you don't even realize they're teaching you things, they're teaching you things. I'll give you an example. Dean talks all the time about his nice green grass and how he doesn't like weeds and all that. You guys heard it, right? Like he has no kids at home anymore and can take time to do it, right? I worked for my dad for 8 years. I started at 12 years old in my dad's lawn and landscaping business, okay? We mow grass. That's what my dad did for a living, okay? I have a little bit different thing. You see, my yard, I don't have so much grass as I have green stuff. Because when they built my house, they hauled 137 dump truck loads of dirt away from my house. It's on the FCA football field. You're welcome. My house, we have rocks and grass and stuff, and so I'm like, it's just green. So I have a different thing, but my dad, I have this thing, and I'm just going to say it, my dad has ingrained this in me, that there is never, ever, ever a reason for you to mow your yard and not trim or clean up the driveway and flower beds and sidewalk. It's ingrained in me. I will look at the weather and make sure I got enough time that I can do all three. I will look at the time if I got to take my kid. If I don't have, I won't do it. I can't. You can't do it. And I know we don't all agree on that. Some of you, it's okay. You're allowed to be wrong. But this is just the way it is. It's ingrained in me. Now, I don't ever remember my dad sitting down with me and going, son, listen, this is the way you mow grass. You have to mow, and then you have to trim, and then you have to be able to get the blower out and clean off the flower beds. And it drives me crazy to see grass clippings in a flower bed. Something my dad has ingrained in my head. He just taught me that. I never got, that statement was never said to me. It just was ingrained in me. It's okay. And some of you are like, dude, that's weird. I know. It's okay. But here's the deal. That's the kind of stuff. It's a real low-hanging fruit example of family and how it's important and how your parents have taught you things. Now, let's do something really fun. I want you to go ahead and get out your phone. If you're a Facebook user, go ahead and get out your phone real quick. I'm going to do something that's going to freak out everybody online, because the online people, you guys are about 1.5 minutes or 2 minutes behind us. So this is going to freak you out for just about the next 2 minutes. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to get on our Facebook stream right now. Go find the live stream of our service, if you've got it. And I want you to go ahead and comment in something that your parents have taught you. Right? My wife in the first service her dad used to say, don't chew with your mouth open. So it can be funny, it can be serious, it can be a recipe, whatever. Like, just go ahead and just put it in there, and the moderator in the back is going to be like, what is happening? It's cool. Go ahead. I won't make fun of you for having your phone out in church, I promise. It's okay. Go ahead and just post it and comment. If you're online, you go ahead and comment. What are the things that your family has taught you? I told you a couple weeks ago, my dad said, every day's a good day. If you don't believe that, skip one. That's a principle that is true in my life. But I want to start off this message about family with 3 statements that I believe are absolutely true and set it up. Here we go. 1, the most important human relationship is family. Now, I will tell you, the most important relationship you can have in your life is the one between you and Jesus Christ. And if you do not have a relationship with Jesus Christ, let me encourage you today to take that step. You're here for a reason. He wants a relationship with you. He paid the price so that he could have a relationship with you, and I would challenge you to take that step. But the very next relationship that is of so much importance, the most important human-to-human relationship, is family. In fact, it's the very first thing God did in the Scriptures. You see, when God made Adam, the way I read it, Adam was all mopey and wandering around and just kind of whatever, talking to the animals and, all this kind of stuff. And God goes, okay, this is not cool. We can't do it this way. You need somebody to help you. You need a helper. And so God put him to sleep, rib, little sleepy time, wow, woman. God made woman for Adam. The first relationship, it was God and Adam. Then it was Adam and Eve. And then it went on to their family. And so the most important relationship, human relationship, is family. But I will tell you, the most difficult human relationship is family. And I say that, some of you are like, okay, here's a question. Kids, teenagers, let me see. You guys raise your hand on this one. How many of you have ever got into a fight with one of your siblings? Okay, those of you who are paying attention, good job. Okay, some of the parents are like, yeah, totally. Yeah, right? Look, here's the deal. They're honest. Listen, I'm one of 5 kids. I am the third. I am the middle child. So if you don't understand anything about middle children, right? But I am the third child, but I am the first boy, which means I got all of the responsibility and none of the credit. I'm kidding. Some of you are like, amen, that's right. That'll preach. No, but look, I was the third of 5, right? And so we had some difficulties. Right? And some of you right now, just talking about difficult family relationships brings some things to the surface that you're uncomfortable and like it hurts. Listen, I've had family hurt me. You've had family hurt you. And it hurts. And I think sometimes your family can hurt you worse than anybody else. Listen, I can get a new friend. I can't get a new family. I can't. My family is my family. And a lot of times what happens is we let our guard down around our family and we don't filter things quite as well. And sometimes we say things that hurt. Sometimes we do things that hurt. How many of you right now can say you have been hurt or have hurt somebody in your family? Okay, so look around. We're all in agreement. One of the most difficult human relationships is family. See, in marriage, taking 2 unique individuals and merging them into one causes all kinds of friction. In kid relationships, there's rivalries. I got 3 kids, and they're all vying for favorites, and they all very well know that the youngest is it. It's true. Well, they know it. It's their favorite, too. It's okay. But it's difficult. It's hard. In parenting, there are different kids. All your kids are different. And you got to parent them all differently, and none of them came with an instruction manual. And listen, teenagers, let me tell you something right now. I want you to look at me. Teenagers, listen to me. You will think you can handle things as an adult faster than your parents think you can handle them as an adult. And your parents are right. Parents can... There we go. All right, good. There. Look, trying to help you out, people. Come on. All right. Listen, this is it. You think you will. It's difficult. But I will tell you, the most rewarding human relationship is family. Because there is something that when you go through the muck and the mire that families go through, when you go through the rough times, when you go through all of that stuff, and you know your family has your back and they are in your corner, there is nothing better than knowing, it doesn't matter, I got my family. And now that might be a family by blood, that might be a family by relationship, but you've got your family. Listen, friends change. I got different friends than I did 10 years ago, but my family is my family. Some are the same. right? Family can be the most rewarding human relationship there ever is. Think about what you've gone through with your family over the last 10 years, and they're still there. You know they have your back, and you have theirs. That's the beauty of family. You see, but in a perfect world, here's what would happen. Let me try to point this out. In a perfect world, in a God relationship, right, you got you, right in the middle of it, because this is your relationship. And then you've got your parents, and even that's a little painful because some of you don't have parents, you have parent, right? And then you have children. Now, some of you are like, well, I don't have any children, or I can't have children, or what. In your life, you have children. There are people, nieces and nephews. There are people that look to you. There are people that look to you as a relative and a child and a parent. And in a perfect world, look, you might have children. They might be 35, but they're still children, and they act like it. But in a perfect world, this is the dynamic that the relationships are. Your parents teach you, and you teach your children. And this entire relationship is surrounded by God. So your parents are loving Jesus with everything they have. And they're teaching you to love Jesus with everything you have. And you in turn get to teach children to love Jesus with everything you have. But in reality, it doesn't always work this way. You see, because we have this little issue called sin. This might just be painful for you to think about because either your parents abandoned you, or you have a parent because something happened and mom or dad split up, or dad split, or whatever it is. Something happened with you and you're estranged from them. Something happened with your kids and you've watched your kids walk away from your family, or walk away from Jesus, or walk away from their faith, even though you did your best to train them. And see, that's the beauty of this. And you're like, Scott, I don't have any kids. I'm older. I'm retired. I don't have any kids in my house. But see, none of us are absolved from this. Because what happens is when this breaks down, this steps up. And what happens is the church comes alongside. Now, the Bible tells very clearly that it is a family's job to train their kids. It's your job, parents. It's not the youth pastor's job. It's not the children's director's job. It's not anybody's job to teach your kids to love Jesus other than you. Our job as a church is to equip you, to train you, to stand in the gaps where it doesn't fit. So if you're a single mom, we can stand in the gap. We fill in where this breaks down. And we come alongside and we equip. So don't think that just because you don't have kids or your kids are grown, that this message isn't for you when we talk about family. Because we get to come alongside as a church body, and we get to walk with people and help train and teach. And in a perfect world, the church would teach the parents how to love Jesus with everything they have, and then they in turn would teach you to love Jesus with everything you have, and you would teach your kids, and it would just go on and on and on and on for generations. But because of sin, it breaks down. And the dynamics change and things happen. And so that's what we're talking about today. We are simply talking about training. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to read a verse that you've heard before. If you've been in church any length of time, or you've listened to any children's things, you've heard this verse. But I'm going to ask you to do me a favor. Don't think about it from the child perspective. So we use this verse to tell parents, hey, it's your job to raise your kids. And that's absolutely true. It's of utmost importance. The most important thing I can do is not lead this church. It's not anything like that. It's to teach my kids to love Jesus. We use it to encourage parents that when their kids step off the path, hey, listen, if you did what you were supposed to do, God promises that they're going to come back. We're not going to look at it that way today. We're going to focus on one word, and that's the word train. You ready? Proverbs 22:6. Here's what it says. Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he's old, he will not depart from it. The word train. A lot of times we focus on the child. Today we're focusing on train. When you hear that word, what comes to mind? Please don't say choo-choo. Please don't say choo-choo. No, when you hear the word train, right? What do you think of? Do you think of a gym? Guys throwing weights? Do you think of that? That's right, love it. Do you think of a classroom? Or in our case right now, a Zoom? Do you think of a garage where there's a car in pieces and you're just helping your dad put it back together? I'm a huge sports guy. My family are huge sports people. My wife was here this morning and now they're off to the ball field. But when I think of training, I think of the hours that I have spent sitting on a bucket or sitting on a stool, catching pitches. Both my kids pitch. Two of my kids pitch. My little one's not yet. But working with them and teaching them, hey, this is how you throw this. This is how you do this. Catching my daughter and working and training and teaching them over and over and over and over again. Thousands of pitches. My wife has not caught for either one of them in 3 years because she's like, it hurts. But I have, because I'm not allowed to cry. Spending time showing them, teaching them how to shoot a basketball, teaching them how to catch a football or to throw a football or to run or to tackle or whatever it is, over and over again. Listen, our youth pastor Matt is getting married in October. That's right. So he's been in the gym working out because you got to look good in the wedding pictures. You got to look good. But he's got a buddy of his that is helping him. Why would he have his buddy help him get fit? Because his buddy knows what he's doing. You ever seen somebody in the gym that doesn't know what they're doing and they go over to the machine and, right? He's got his buddy training him because he knows. You ever have somebody try to tell you how to do something that you know darn well they don't know how to do? And you just look at them like, who let you talk? Right? Y'all know what I mean, right? You ever tried to teach your kids something like, I don't know, over the last 10, 12 weeks that you didn't know? And so you had to stay up the night before and do their homework so you could figure out how to teach them the next day? Right? Here's the deal. In order to train, I have to know the way. So when it says train up a child, as a church, we have to know the way. If I'm going to show my children, train my children on how to pursue Jesus with everything they have, I better know how to do it. Man, kids will know if you're faking it. In order to learn where to go and where not to go, I have to know the way. Go back to Proverbs 22:6, train up a child. The verse right before that. Check this out. It says, in the paths of the wicked are snares and pitfalls, but those who would preserve their life stay far from them. Look, if I want to help my children avoid the snares and pitfalls along the way, I have to know where the snares and pitfalls are. And we learn those as we grow in our faith and walk the way God wants us to. Every one of us probably has stories where we have stepped off the way, stepped off the path that God wanted us to. If only for a moment, and then we came back on. Some of us, we have years that we stepped off the path, and we're getting back on. But we have been tripped up by those snares, by those pitfalls, or let's just call it what it is, sin. And now we get the chance to impart the wisdom of learning through those to our kids. You see, you can either learn by watching other people or you can learn by experiencing it yourself. And I do not want my kids to learn from experiencing what I've experienced. Paul talks about this in the book of Ephesians. He says, you grow and you change your life when you start walking with Jesus. Ephesians 4:20, it says, that, however, is not the way of life you learned when you heard about Christ and were taught in him in accordance with the truth that is in Jesus. When you grow in your faith with Jesus, you learn more about the way he wants you to live. Each year you grow. But then by proxy, you also learn the way he doesn't want you to live. And you get to train your kids. You get to train the kids in this church. You get to train the people that are in your life on how to avoid those things and follow the way God has for them. You see, Solomon wrote a lot of the book of Proverbs. And in portions of it, he wrote it like he was sitting down having a conversation with his son. And I can totally relate to that because I've got two sons and we have lots of conversations and it's interesting. And so in Proverbs 3, this is one of those times, and here's what he says. He says, my son, do not forget my teaching, but keep my commands in your heart, for they will prolong your life for many years and bring you peace and prosperity. Let love and faithfulness never leave you. Bind them around your neck. Write them on the tablet of your heart. Then you will win favor and a good name in the sight of God and man. That's training. Now, what we know about Solomon. Solomon was the son of David. David was known as a man after God's own heart. But we also know that David was a mess. If you know how Solomon came to be, you will know that David was a mess. But yet David always understood that no matter what happened, he could get back to God by repenting and restoring that relationship. And that's why he was known as a man after God's own heart. And so Solomon got to watch this. Not that David was perfect. Parents, you don't have to be perfect, but you just got to be honest and you got to get back to Jesus. Solomon watched how important God was and how making sure that you and God are in good standing and how important that is. And Solomon had paid attention to that and was now passing it along to his son. He was training, and he knew the way because he saw it. But the interesting thing is, to know the way, I have to be trained. Training is hard work. Now, the military has this thing they call basic training, which I understand is really, really easy, and it's not a big deal, and anybody can do it. No, I'm kidding. I know it's really, really hard, and really one of the reasons I'm a pastor, not a soldier. But it's training, and it's not fun. Basically, they just rip everything away and reprogram you with a new focus and a new ability and a new thing with all this kind of stuff, and it's crazy, and it's not always fun. But if I want to show my kids the way to go when it comes to walking with Jesus, I have to be trained. That could be by godly parents who poured into me. That could be by a church that comes alongside me. That could be by watching things on Right Now Media or reading things on my YouVersion app or whatever else, or studying the Bible for myself, which you probably should do, but you should probably have somebody train you along the way. Sometimes it's listening to a pastor like Dean or myself and allowing us to step on your toes. And I will tell you, God has stepped on my toes a lot this week. I went from a size 11 to a size 9. God has stepped on our toes, letting us step on your toes, and all of it takes a willingness to listen to the Holy Spirit. You see, if you have a relationship with Jesus, if you have been saved by Jesus, He has given you the gift of the Holy Spirit to live inside you, to teach you and train you and instruct you, and to walk with you. So when you crack open the book, you can begin to learn. And look, not all teaching is positive. Sometimes there's correction. A little farther along in Proverbs 3, Solomon writes this to his son. He says, "My son, do not despise the Lord's discipline, and do not resent his rebuke, because the Lord disciplines those he loves. As a father, the son he delights in." As a dad, there are times where I have to discipline my kids. I have to instruct my kids. And don't look at discipline as a bad thing. It's training. I have to sit down with them. There are times where I have to sit down with my 12-year-old son, Braden, and explain to him what was going on and why he did something wrong. And a lot of times it's me explaining to Braden that he can't be exactly like I was when I was 12. And sometimes it's not fun. And sometimes it's not. A lot of times I just have to remind him to stop acting like I did. Braden is so much like me, it's not even funny. Unless it's funny, which is a whole nother problem. Okay? Because it is hard to discipline your kid when they do something that you think is hilarious. All right? And sometimes I have to correct the negative. Because I am trying to train my kids to love Jesus with everything. I am trying to train my kids to blow past me when it comes to the pursuit of Jesus. You know, we as a church and as people often think that one of the best things that could happen is that our kids will love Jesus as much as we do. Don't sell your kids that short. I want the kids in this church, I want the kids in this youth group to blow right past me when it comes to how they love Jesus and how they pursue him with reckless abandon. I want them to go after it and go after it hard. Because I know how often I fail at loving God and loving other people, and I don't want to sell my kids short. I want them to blow past me. I want them to look in the rearview mirror and see me sprinting to catch up with how they love him. I want to encourage them to not get stuck in the things I've gotten stuck in. And a lot of the things I have to teach my son are the exact same things that I struggle with. And so I want to teach him. Training never stops when it comes to growing. You don't get trained. You are constantly being trained. Even if you're 80 years old, there is still growing for you to do in your walk with Jesus. We don't get trained. This is a constant process where we go back and forth, back to God, back and forth, and we get trained over and over again. See, but it goes a little deeper than that, because how I train myself impacts how I train others. What I'm doing to continue my spiritual development, to continue to take steps down the road to be more like Christ, impacts greatly how I can train other people. And I will tell you, in an effort to be completely transparent, God smacked me around this week. You see, with all this stuff going on in our world, my wife and I have been sitting having conversations about the end times and really digging into the scriptures to figure out what it is with the rapture and the tribulation and the millennial and all that, all of those kinds of things. And my kids are asking questions, and I don't know if they just aren't paying attention along the way, or maybe it's just maybe I just haven't done a very good job training them. And God spoke to me. God got right in my face this week through my kids. And what he said to me, I'm not going to repeat to you. But here's what I know. He slapped me around because I have plenty of time to spend time with my kids on the ball field. I have spent plenty of time to spend time with my kids watching a TV show. And listen, hear me, none of those things are necessarily a bad thing. But often I don't have time to sit down with them and have family devotions. Often I don't have time to sit down with them and talk about the things of Jesus. Look, it's not that you can't enjoy a TV show or a ball game or anything like that. But how I train impacts how I train. And God poked into my heart of hearts and got into my face and asked me how I was training myself. It was being revealed in how I train others. You see, I have to constantly make sure this relationship is good. I have to constantly make sure so that I can do this well. I've got to make sure this is good. My relationship with God has to continue to grow because how I train myself impacts not only how I train other people, it impacts how I train my kids. 1 Timothy says this, have nothing to do with godless myths and old wives' tales. Rather, train yourself to be godly. For physical training is of some value, but godliness has value for all things, holding promise for both the present life and the life to come. Listen, I can run 20 to 25 miles a week. That's 3 to 4 hours of commitment. Can I commit that much time to growing in my walk with Jesus? This is the conversation I'm having with me, between me and Jesus. How I train impacts how I train. He's given me the manual. 2 Timothy 3 says, all scripture is God-breathed and is useful for teaching, rebuking, correcting, and training in righteousness, so that the servant of God may be thoroughly equipped for every good work. God gave me an entire training manual. He gave me the Holy Spirit to walk with me and talk with me. All I got to do is open it. I got apps at my fingertips. I can get on Right Now Media anytime. I can get on YouVersion. I can get on other apps. And I can grow. I've got no excuse. I can get on here where people way smarter and way more spiritual than me, so that when my kids or your kids or you or somebody in conversation asks me, I've had some of the craziest spiritual conversations sitting at a ball field, I'll be able to help train others well. So let me ask you, how's your training going? Are you training? How's your family doing spiritually? So often problems in families, in marriage, in life can be traced back to people not walking with Jesus. Because here's what I know. When I'm trying my best to walk with Jesus, and my wife Andrea is trying her best to walk with Jesus, we tend to have a lot less issues in our marriage. In my family, when we're all trying to walk with Jesus, we have a lot less issues. So today, let me challenge you to take a real look at your life. Take a real quick look and examination and ask the Spirit, are you training well? Are you being trained well? If not, make a change. Now, that change might be big, it might be small, but whatever it is, don't stay where you are. Make a change.